A shocking incident unfolded when a flight attendant forced a young black boy off a plane, assuming he didn't belong in first class. Little did she know, within moments, the boy would reveal himself as none other than the son of the airline's owner, and what happened next is nothing short of extraordinary. Stay with us, as this powerful story of judgment, assumptions, and redemption will leave you speechless. Before we dive into this eye-opening tale, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and drop a comment below sharing where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. It was another busy day at JFK International Airport in New York, where the bustling sounds of flight announcements, the clatter of rolling suitcases, and hurried footsteps filled the air. Among the sea of travelers was a young boy named Caleb Turner. At just 12 years old, Caleb exuded a quiet confidence. His wide, curious eyes and soft smile stood out, but so did his simplicity. Dressed in a casual hoodie and jeans, carrying nothing more than a backpack stuffed with books and snacks, he looked like any ordinary kid. But Caleb was far from ordinary. Today was special for Caleb. He was flying alone for the first time to Washington, D.C., to visit his father, Jonathan Turner, the brilliant and respected CEO of Sky Airlines, one of the nation's largest and most prestigious carriers. Though his father was a titan in the aviation industry, Caleb had been raised with humility and a deep sense of respect for others. For Caleb, his first-class ticket wasn't just a luxury, it was a symbol of a journey he was taking on his own. As he approached the gate, Caleb handed his first-class ticket to the smiling gate agent. "Have a great flight," she said warmly, pointing him toward the jet bridge. He made his way to seat 2A, tucked his backpack neatly under the seat, and eagerly opened a book about aviation, a passion he had inherited from his father. Caleb was in his element, dreaming of airplanes and the vast skies above. But what began as an exciting adventure quickly turned into something Caleb would never forget. As Caleb was engrossed in his book, Melissa Porter, a flight attendant in her mid-30s, strode down the aisle. Known for her strict demeanor, Melissa took pride in running a tight ship, or in this case, a smooth flight. But her sharp eyes landed on Caleb, and in an instant, her expression shifted to one of suspicion. "Excuse me," Melissa said curtly, her tone cutting through the hum of the boarding passengers. "Are you sure you're in the right seat?" Caleb looked up, startled but polite. "Yes, ma'am. This is my seat, 2A, he replied, holding up his boarding pass as proof. Melissa frowned deeply, her gaze narrowing. "First class isn't for standby passengers or upgrades. This section is reserved for paying customers," she said firmly, her words dripping with assumption. Caleb blinked, momentarily at a loss for words. I have a ticket," he said, reaching into his pocket to retrieve it. But Melissa waved him off before even glancing at the ticket. "I can't have people sitting where they don't belong," she snapped. "You need to move to the back." The tension was palpable as nearby passengers exchanged confused glances, but no one stepped in. Caleb's face flushed with embarrassment. "I really do have a ticket," he repeated, his voice quieter now, almost pleading. Melissa sighed impatiently. "Look, I don't have time for this. Either you move, or I'll have to ask you to leave the plane." Caleb hesitated, fighting back tears that threatened to spill. "Fine," he whispered, grabbing his backpack and making his way down the aisle. He stood near the plane's exit, unsure of what to do next. Melissa, meanwhile, radioed the gate agents. "Remove this child," she ordered, her voice cold and unwavering. The gate agent, puzzled, approached Caleb. "He's a ticketed passenger," she said, but Melissa dismissed her with a dismissive wave. Caleb quietly stepped off the plane, his small frame trembling as he stood in the terminal. His cheeks burned with shame, but he held his head high. Just then, Emily Harris, the terminal manager, noticed Caleb standing alone. Emily was a sharp-eyed, compassionate professional who had worked closely with Jonathan Turner on various airline initiatives. Recognizing Caleb immediately, she hurried over. "Caleb, what are you doing here?" Emily asked, her voice full of concern. Caleb explained what had happened, his words shaky. "She didn't even look at my ticket," he said, his voice trembling. "She just assumed I wasn't supposed to be there." Emily's face hardened with determination. "Stay right here," she said, pulling out her phone. Moments later, she was on the line with Jonathan Turner. "Jonathan, your son has just been kicked off one of your flights," she said, her voice taut with anger. "Yes, kicked off. He's standing here in tears because one of your employees made an assumption." Jonathan's voice on the other end was calm but firm. "I'm on my way. Do not let that plane take off." 11 minutes later, Jonathan Turner arrived at the terminal. Dressed in a tailored suit, his commanding presence turned heads immediately. He strode over to Caleb and knelt to hug him. "Are you okay, son?" he asked softly. Caleb nodded, though his eyes were still wet. "I didn't do anything wrong, Dad," he murmured. "I know, son," Jonathan said, his voice steady. "Let's fix this." Jonathan and Emily led Caleb back to the gate. Melissa, oblivious to the brewing storm, was chatting with the captain. But the moment Jonathan stepped onto the plane with Caleb, the atmosphere shifted. Passengers began murmuring, recognizing the influential CEO. Jonathan approached Melissa, his expression calm but icy. "Are you the flight attendant who removed my son from this plane?" he asked. Melissa blinked, caught off guard. I didn't know he was your son," she stammered. "That shouldn't matter," Jonathan replied firmly. "You didn't check his ticket. You humiliated a child in front of your passengers because of an assumption. Is this how you treat all customers, or just the ones who don't look like they belong?" Jonathan then addressed the passengers. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the disruption, but this is a matter of principle. No one, especially a child, should be treated as though they don't belong because of their appearance. This behavior doesn't reflect the values of Sky Airlines, and it won't be tolerated." The cabin erupted in applause, passengers nodding in agreement. Jonathan turned back to Melissa. "You're relieved of your duties for this flight. We'll be discussing your employment with HR." Caleb returned to his seat, this time with his father by his side. Passengers offered him smiles and words of encouragement. "Are you okay now?" Jonathan asked. Caleb nodded.
"Yeah.
"Thanks for coming, Dad." "Always," Jonathan said, ruffling Caleb's hair. What began as an act of discrimination turned into a powerful moment of accountability and change. In the following weeks, Sky Airlines introduced new training programs on racial bias and customer service. Caleb and his father worked on initiatives to make first-class travel more inclusive, turning a painful moment into an opportunity for growth. Have you ever witnessed or experienced unfair treatment like Caleb? Share your story in the comments and subscribe for more inspiring tales of resilience and justice.